Most musicians are sabotaging their own progress, and they don't even know it. After teaching over 10,000 players, I've seen that you don't need to practice more. You just need to stop practicing wrong. I'll show you the invisible practice mistakes that kill your improvement and how to fix them fast. Most musicians feel that the way forward is to simply do more practice, or to find some advanced way of practicing that's really clever, or to find some killer exercise that magically solves everything for them. Now, the truth is much more boring than that, but in a good way, because it gives you an easy fix that you can use to really massively accelerate your progress. And the key here is to understand that you have practice leaks. So these are fundamental areas of your practice that are broken. And what happens is you're putting the effort in, and those practice leaks just allow it all to kind of shoot out again without sticking into progress or improvement. So for the vast majority of musicians, by far the most effective way to improve things is not to add in some clever new technique or anything like that. Instead, it's to cut out the bad aspects of your practice that mean all the effort you put in is being wasted. Now, to make this a bit clearer, I'm going to take this AeroPress that I use to make my coffee normally, and we're going to start out with this metal filter in there. Let's see what happens. If we start to pour some water into that, you can hopefully see that it's just going straight through. And I can keep pouring as much water as I like in there. Not going to do anything. It's all just going through. So this metal filter, this is actually a more expensive one, but the holes are bigger. So if I can finally get that out, let's see what happens if we switch it for this cheaper paper one. And this is essentially like the more basic practice, but where we've just focused on getting the basics right. So I can pour just a tiny bit of water in here, and basically it's none of it going through. So, I mean, I can pour more if I want, but the big takeaway here is just like your practice, when you fix the leaks, you don't have to do anything like as much. I can put just a tiny bit of water in here, and I've got way more stuff fixed in my practice, helping me move forwards than when I had the metal filter in there. I could have just kept pouring and pouring and pouring. I'm doing all this advanced stuff. I'm putting more and more time into my practice, and nothing is sticking in the thing. Except now you can see with this little basic paper filter where we've blocked the leaks, we actually had quite a bit in there. Now, if you do want to do more practice or to add in advanced techniques, then that is great. But leave it until after you have fixed all the leaks first, otherwise it's just wasted effort. I'm going to show you the most common practice leaks and the most serious practice leaks that I have seen after teaching thousands of musicians to practice really effectively. Now, there's one important thing to add here, and that is that all these fixes to improve the quality of your practice are only going to be useful to you if you've chosen the right things to work on in the first place. So click the link below to download the free handy tool I've made that shows you how to pick the perfect practice topic for you right now. And I hope that you'll use it again and again, because every time you make progress with this effective practice, what you need to work on changes. So having an excellent way of choosing the right next thing to work on is one of the most valuable things that you can add into your abilities as a musician. Practice mistake 1 is practicing way too fast. Now, the way to play anything reliably at speed is to be completely relaxed as you do it. Not just in your muscles, but also in your mind. And so when you are practicing at the maximum speed that you can just about get through, you are doing it by being tensed up with your muscles, and you're probably stressed out with your mind trying to think, oh, what is next? What is next? And so you are literally rehearsing and ingraining a way of doing it that is basically making you worse at playing fast. So this is a complete disaster. Instead, you need to practice slow enough that it is effortless physically. So you're really embedding that feeling of being totally relaxed and only using the muscles that you absolutely need to play. And at the same time, you want to be slow enough so you know exactly what you're playing. You're not having to think about it or stress about it. So you are also training yourself to be mentally relaxed and calm as you play this thing. And that means that when you do want to bring it up to speed later, you are going to have that lovely feeling of relaxation, effortless, both in your muscles and in your mind. And that is what is going to ultimately allow you to play it really fast. But you won't get there if you spend all your time trying to do as fast as you can right now and literally shooting yourself in the foot. Well, okay, metaphorically shooting yourself in the foot. Let's try that. And to do this well, you need to practice way slower than you think, almost certainly, because the downsides of getting this a little bit wrong and going a little bit too fast are huge. So rather than trying to find the fastest speed you can get away with and be totally relaxed, you are much better off going way below the level, way slower than you need, and just saying, okay, I can probably go faster, but at this thing, I know I am relaxed enough. Because the thing is, what you are storing here in the new pathways you're creating in your brain is what muscles need to move in what sequence. And it doesn't matter so much exact speed that you're doing it at, as that your brain is laying down the ability to make these motions in sequence. So you're not losing out by going really slow. And this is why one of the most common ways of getting things up to speed is also one of the most ineffective and downright dangerous ones. And that is, you probably come across it, taking a metronome and cranking it up a notch every time that you can actually play at the speed you're currently at. Now, this can work fine if you are doing it at a level where you are always 100% relaxed when you are playing at the speed. The trouble is, most people don't do that. Most people will be at the level where they can just about muscle through it, overly tense, and then they crank it up a notch and they do the same again. And that is a disaster. Don't do that. Much better to play really, really slow and just stick there and enjoy it and get better and get solid, and don't worry about chasing metronome speeds. You can check in from time to time how you're doing at a faster speed, but that is not where you want to be doing most of your practice. Now, there actually is a time and a place to play things really fast in practice. And ideally, in the perfect world, you'll be doing mostly slow practice with a little bit of really targeted fast practice. But this video is not the place to go into that. The last thing I want to do is giving you a little bit of information about this, not enough, or people skim through the video and then they use it in the wrong place and they actually sabotage all the gains they've made from practicing slowly. So if you want to get into that, then I do have some courses where I teach all this sort of stuff in detail. But for now, know that you will get massive improvement from just practicing really slowly and not worrying about trying to get in that little bit of fast practice as well. Practice mistake number 2 is engaging in mindless practice and thinking that just if I do enough repetitions, then this is going to get me the improvement that I want. And the problem with that is what we are looking to do is we are literally looking to change the brain. The way we gain skills is by creating and strengthening pathways in our brain. And it turns out that this only happens in particular circumstances. And that basically means when you are paying deliberate, focused attention to what you are doing. So first off, don't think that you can just sit down and practice something mindlessly and get some benefit from it. Another aspect of this is that when you take the time to reflect on repetitions in between them, that can really strengthen the focus on what you're getting and make sure you're staying on the right thing rather than just some other things. So that's really helpful. And again, if you find that you are losing focus, losing the ability to focus, take a break. Don't try and push through it and just try and cram in more repetitions. You'll get much more from a small number of really focused repetitions than a large number of mindless ones. Now, I'm not going to go deeper into this one here because as it happens, I have made a video on this specific topic and you can check that out if you want some of the interesting science behind that and some more ideas about exactly how to put all this into practice. And that brings us on to practice mistake number 3. And that is thinking that it's all about the time that you put in and that more time spent practicing means better results. Now, it's not the case. It's actually the repetitions that matter, not the time. And as we've just seen in practice mistake number 2, the repetitions that count are only the focused repetitions, not mindless ones. So that is what we have got to be maximizing. So just trying to get into a practice session and feeling, oh, I did really well because I was there for hours and hours, might be missing the point entirely. And equally, really short ones, if you've managed to get in a large number of high quality repetitions, then that can be giving you way better results. So what does this mean in practice? It means we want to be incredibly deliberate about identifying exactly what it is that we're working on. Because if you just play one really long passage, which contains one little bit somewhere in there that is what you want to improve, then you're not going to be able to do many repetitions of that. The ideal thing is to zero in on exactly which is the bit that needs improvement. What is the smallest thing that I can cut out of this that contains that so I can repeat it more times? Or alternatively, you might go down the route of, can I create or find an etude where this thing happens again and again and again? So by playing through one rep of the etude, if you like, I'm doing the thing that matters many times rather than playing through this other bit where it only happens once. And practice mistake number 4 is not being clear enough about exactly what you are working on. Because when we're doing these hopefully focused repetitions of exactly the chunk of the piece that matters, there are still loads of different aspects of the playing that we could be working on. We could be thinking about dynamics. We could be thinking about, are we getting the notes right? We could be thinking about tone, all those sorts of things. And what has a tendency to happen is people are playing something and they're just doing a general assessment of, did I like it? Did I not like it? Did I think it was good enough? Did I think it wasn't great? And the trouble is when you do that, your attention can be shifting in each repetition to looking at the dynamics one time or something you weren't quite happy with here another time. And so in terms of that focused repetitions, if you remember that we need, it's not really that. It's different each time. So the more that you can be very specific about what is it that I'm looking at here, is it the dynamics? In which case, let me be really locked onto the dynamics every time I do this repetition. Is it perhaps getting the notes right or the rhythm? And can I make sure I'm locked into those rather than being constantly just drifting to wherever the attention gets grabbed? And in that case, you think you're focused. You are paying attention to the music. You are doing the same thing again and again, but actually your attention within that window is jumping about. So let's look at an example of how this might actually work in practice. And I'm going to do this by playing a video clip of a practice session I recorded where I was working on the Martin Taylor arrangement of Like Someone in Love. So this recording was actually me playing through the entire tune, but even this little section of it here that I played you, that is way too long for me to be working on in practice, unless my goal for that practice is to prepare for performance and the delivering of an entire piece. So we would obviously break it down into shorter chunks, but even within those, there are so many different things that I could look at and decide I want to work on. So you can see that at points there are notes that I haven't played properly. They haven't quite rung out clearly. And there's a lot that I want to improve, mostly throughout, about the balance of the different voices. So the bass line is not as loud as I would like it to be relative to the middle voices and the melody on top. And there are also aspects with the rhythm, with the groove, that I don't feel I'm getting quite as strongly, quite as rhythmically as I'd like at places. But the key thing here is that I'm not going to work on all of those three things at once. That's not going to get me great results. So instead, I'm going to find a place where perhaps the notes weren't ringing out clearly. And I'm going to really cut that down to just a tiny bit or the smallest bit where that was happening. And then I'm going to play that, and I'm not going to worry about the rhythm. I'm not going to worry about the balance between the dynamics, the bass line and the melody. I'm just going to sort out the notes. And then when I've made some progress on that, I'll move on to the next one. I might find maybe it's a different part where I feel this is a great part to work on getting the bass line sounding louder. And then I'll work on that, and I won't worry so much about whether all the notes ring out clearly. I won't worry so much about the rhythm because, again, that's not the focus for that tiny little bit of practice. And then finally, I might move on to a place where I want to work on the groove, the rhythm. And once again, when I'm focused on that, I'm going to let the other things slide. Now, I hope they'll go well. But the point is, that's not where my focus is. My focus is purely on the rhythm at that point. And it is that individual division of attention and limiting it to small bits in all those ways that is really going to get that targeted progress. And although each of those things are improving separately and other bits are perhaps being let go quite loosely within that, when you do that, over time, they will all build up. Each one will get better. And the overall performance is just improving much faster than if you try and do everything at once and you can't really manage it. Now, I hope you'll take these ideas, apply them to your own practice and see great results. If you want to go even deeper though, then check the link below for a chance to join my course on how to practice more effectively that I think is really going to help you go even further if this is something you would like to dig into.